The legacy and voices of our ancestors is a foundation we can stand on and be inspired by today. Please like, share, and subscribe. Today I want to share with you a real life experience I had that involved racism. This isn't some kind of critical race theory anecdote. This is a real life thing that happened. And one of the reasons I'm so passionate about some of the content that I make is I think we gain something from sharing our thoughts and experiences with others. I just wanted to say this. I grew up in kind of a bubble where I didn't experience racism early at all. I went to an all-black school. I lived in an all-black neighborhood. My physician was a pediatrician, was a black woman growing up. My dentist was black. I went to an all-black church. So I really didn't connect or wasn't around racist white people to ever experience racism very much. The only white person in my life that I remember as a little kid was the milkman. And I really liked him. I would get paid like a nickel to carry the milk bottles out. So I would go out and I would greet him sometimes if I saw him coming up. And I remember he always had this big cigar in his mouth. And he would compliment me and call me a hardworking guy and everything for working for that nickel. So white people, for the most part, were like background performers in a movie to me. So I had other racial experiences, called the N-word randomly. But this was a big experience I had that really sort of shook me. So back when I was about 15 years old in high school, I used to play this game called Dungeons and Dragons. I know a lot of you probably never heard of it, but it was like a little board game, role-playing game. And we would meet in this cafeteria at a college. It was near my high school and kind of near my house. So I was there taking my turn and I was playing, and all of a sudden in the corner of my eye, I noticed this motion. And for the most part, it was just totally quiet there. So it was kind of disturbing to me. It looked like somebody like walking really fast. And so I looked up and here came this security guard. And so there's a group of us, probably, 15, 20 of us. Some of us were playing, some of them just observing. And we were all young kids. There might have been a couple upperclassmen there, but most was 14, 15 high school students. So this security guard rushes up to the group and he parts everybody out of the way. And he gets right up in my face and demands to see ID from me. So, I had all kinds of different feelings at the time. I thought, thought about impulsively, thought about being confrontational with him. And, a little tension went by. I didn't say anything at first. And then I said to him, what kind of ID are you looking for? Because obviously I was, a young kid, didn't have a driver's license or any of that. And I said, I got my high school ID. And so he thrust his hand out in front of me, demanding it. So, I took my wallet out and I thought about doing a lot of things, but I didn't. The things went through my head. I started thinking about Frederick Douglass and Martin Luther King and all that they had done. I thought about even my own relatives, men who grew up in the 40s and 50s and what they had gone through. And I felt something different at that instant. I felt like, I'm standing on their shoulders right now. They went through all these different things. So that although there's still racism, there's no laws that support it anymore. Society is moving away from that. And I don't need to confront this guy because they've already sort of done that for me. And we'll see where this goes. So I gave him the ID and he looks it over. He just stands there kind of with a blank expression. And I'm thinking, this is so stupid. So he's there for maybe looking at it for about, a minute and 30 seconds, and he hands it back to me. So he hands it back. I'm kind of a smart ass in the service, but I'm not confrontational. But then I just said, so what did you learn from that? Keep in mind, this was back before the internet and Google. He couldn't Google me. He had no access to any databases to look up my name and search and find out anything. So the whole exercise was useless. It served no purpose. He didn't learn anything from it. And all it was a little racist display. And that was the beginning and end of it all. Gives me this weird look. He looks kind of embarrassed and he walks away. One of the biggest aftermaths for that incident I got was that my friends, because my friends were like completely shocked, much more shocked than me, and they started to apologize to me. And I think this is the thing we get is that if you've never been through something like that, you've never observed it, you think it's not going on at all. But you think about it, this security guard was a man probably in his 60s back then. So he probably grew up in the 30s and 40s. He was used to seeing black people mistreated. It was normalized for him. He probably saw black people on the back of the bus. He probably saw all kinds of injustice with no pushback whatsoever. So this was a guy who grew up in a much more racist world and probably had no feeling about running up to me. He saw I was the only black person in the group. So he just fixated on me in his racist small mind. And he thought I was like a criminal or some threat when obviously, what was I? I was just a little teenager playing a board game with a whole bunch of other people. He didn't demand their IDs. He did nothing. It was just blatantly obvious. And so what I really got from that and what I got from it later, even thinking on it back then, was that, as somewhat of a patriotic guy, it's really beautiful that our society has moved away from that the kind of core racism this guy showed racist to his core. It's not supported by laws or institutions. We've made progress that some societies literally never see. And if you think I'm wrong, you could just research into it. There are cultures where people oppressed 1,000 years ago is still going on. A lot of things that we've eliminated here are still going on in other parts of the world. So I'm encouraged by that although I experienced something like that, this is not a common day practice, that we've moved on from that. And it's a beautiful thing to live now. And we can keep reaching for excellence. We can leave all that behind us. We can move on and not let those kind of attitudes, oh, they're still around. We can move on from them and not have to deal with them anymore. We're standing on the shoulders of champions who blaze this trail that we're on now, this path. And we can take this path and we can pursue excellence on it. We can feel proud of the things our ancestors accomplished and inspired by them to move on to bigger, better, and greater things, and not have the white races who've tried to tear us down generation after generation really hinder us at all like they used to.